Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tech Talks by NASSCOM Insights in association with Shaktipreneurs. In our discussion today, we are joined by leading segment experts from NASSCOM, Logicon, Resolve 360, and YCM. The topic for today's discussion is legal tech, myths, and opportunities. I am Deepika Divekar Panikar. I am co-founder of Logicon Consultancy Services. It's a legal consultancy. Amongst other things, we cater to startups and young and dynamic companies. So this is a very, very interesting chat and discussion that I'm hoping to be a part of today. I'm also the host for today's discussion. So looking forward to that. Most importantly, joining us on the panel today, we have some eminent panelists, ladies who are shattering the glass ceiling and working in the domain of legal tech, dispute resolution, and related matters. So very, very happy to be collaborating with these phenomenal ladies. We have Namita Shah, co-founder of Resolve 360, a legal tech company founded with the vision of making digital access to justice a reality in our country. Namita has been recognized among the top 60 of the Women Transforming India 2018 initiative by the Government of India. She is a CA. She is, in fact, a gold medalist. She has also done her CPA from the US and has finished her LLB and is an alum of Government Law College and HR College. She is passionate about writing, learning, teaching, and mentoring. She writes about her learnings through life and work under the brand Empowering Minds. Namita is a graduate of Shakti, the Empathy Project, or STEP, an incubation program for women creating social impact. Great to have you on board, Namita.
Thank you, Deepika, for such a kind introduction.
You're welcome. We also have Neha Jain, a senior analyst at NASSCOM Insights. Neha is a research professional with over 15 years of vast experience in business research, financial research, and strategy across diverse industry segments. Currently at NASSCOM, she's leading the IT services, patents, data centers, MarTech, and mobility. Prior to joining NASSCOM, Neha has worked as a freelance researcher and has also led the telecom, media, and technology vertical at CRISIL Global Research and Analytics. Great to have you on board, Neha.
Thanks, Deepika. Look forward to a wonderful discussion ahead. Thank you.
Likewise. I'm just going to speak a little bit about Kudrat. She is the founder of YCM, India's first youth conflict management and mediation initiative. The goal of YCM is that all are equipped to convert conflicts into growth spaces in any domain of life. YCM fills the gap to deal with conflicts constructively. She is a commercial dispute resolution lawyer qualified in India, a civil and commercial mediator accredited by the Civil Mediation Council, United Kingdom, and a facilitator and instructional course designer. She has diverse work experience in London and India. She is also a Chevening scholar and has completed her LLM in law and linguistics. So that's Kudrat for you. All right. So beginning this very interesting session where we deep dive into relevant aspects of legal tech, I'd just like to flesh out our aim for today's session a little bit. I'm sure many of us will agree that a slightly not very predominant, but yet increasingly growing, rapidly developing sector of not only the startup industry, startup domain, but the entire economy as a whole is legal tech. It is no longer only restricted to fringes. In fact, it is fast moving from the fringes and becoming an important component of any businesses, whether conglomerates, diverse, the more matured ones, or the younger, more dynamic startups. From optimizing legal research for lawyers, streamlining legal operations for businesses, and enabling innovators to safeguard their ideas, legal technology is showing great promise in India and the world over as well. In fact, the sector is seeing a massive interest from the Indian entrepreneurial ecosystem, especially amongst those looking to file for IPs like patents and trademarks, or also looking to resolve conflicts. So like I was saying before, I think I've already said it once, legal tech marries the best of legal acumen with technology which is enabling, and presents to startups, dynamic companies, as well as the more mature organizations with all-round legal solutions which are based in sound and rock-solid technology. So in today's discussion, we will focus on insights and opportunities in legal tech with our very eminent panelists and ladies who are, like I already said before, shattering the glass ceiling in legal tech each day: Kudrat, Neha, and Namita. So I think, without losing a lot of time on me speaking a lot about legal tech, I would like to begin the session with posing certain questions to our panelists. So typically, Neha, I think you would be the right person who would help us figure the answers to questions regarding IP and patent protection. So, what do you think, in today's age of innovation and innovation management, how important do you think is intellectual property protection for startups?
So thanks, Deepika. And I would just say that it is very important, but to give more credibility to what I just said, I have a couple of slides and data points that I would like to share with the audience. Is my screen visible to all?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So before I answer the question, I would like to set certain data points correctly to start with. Now, this slide basically talks about some key patent filing trends in India. So if we look at the latest report that's there, still 2018-19, what we see is 2/3 of the patent applications that are filed in India are from foreign applicants. So which means most of them are MNCs. And what is even surprising is that out of those 2/3 patents, 80% of them have been granted. So that's 4/5 of all the patents is granted. Yeah, so that's a big chunk. And this is what we have right now, the latest number, and things have been worse in the earlier years. And if you can look at the top assignees, we see Qualcomm, Samsung, Huawei, Ericsson, Microsoft. So this is what we see in the Indian patent filing domain, versus if you look at all other developed countries and if you go over to their data and see, how things are, you will see a exactly opposite story. So just to set a little more context to the whole idea. Now, last couple of years, people say, we are doing too much research and technology, and there's a lot of focus on digital, emerging tech. So definitely that kind of pushed the number of applications over the last couple of years. And if you can see, over 2013 to 2018, rest of the data is provisional. We see a lot of jump in digital technology domain, so whether it's data processing, wireless communication, or digital information. While all these are the top 5 categories. So you see a lot of digital coming into the top 5 categories of patent filing. Now, we did this research 2 years back where we saw that, overall the patent filing trend that even Indian domiciled companies have, they're filing a lot of patents in the emerging tech domain. And if you look at the trend, then over the last 5 years, the share of total emerging technology patents in the share of emerging technology patents in total patents have increased considerably. It's nearly 60%. And if you look at, things like AI, cybersecurity, IoT, cloud, these are the areas which are coming towards the top. So our companies are creating innovative technologies, innovative products and services in these areas, and they are filing for it. But when you dwell deeper into what's happening across technologies, we see that, we did this study last year on IoT patent filing. So if we see out of all the patents that are filed in the IoT domain from India, 71% are filed by MNCs, and there are 3.6% filed by startups. But if you look at a further breakdown of startups, then you see 1.6% were international startups. So I put them in the MNC category, and international filers were 73%, while our Indian startups were 2%. So you can see that gap that we are seeing. And though we keep telling, you see so many unicorns coming in, we see so many companies coming in who are putting new products, new services across the market, but the patent filing trend doesn't seem to resonate with the lot of good stories that we are hearing. Now, again, the same goes for the granted to filed ratio, where 54% of the patents that are granted to MNCs. So even obviously, just they are filing more, the grants ratio is also higher for them. Now, AI is our area, we have so much research done in AI. And but here also, if you look at the overall breakup of patents being filed, still 41% is coming from international companies and another 7% from international startups. So if you again culminate the two numbers, nearly 50% is still coming from the foreign assignees. It's only AI related patents. Again, the grant to file ratio is as high as 60%. And if you look at the major assignees who have filed AI patents, I mean, you see 3 Indian logos there versus, a lot of foreign logos. So this is just an indicative list, some numbers to tell you that though innovation is happening, we don't see the same trend in IP filing. Okay, now just to set a little more context, I've told you that startups are not filing enough patents. Now, does that not work for them? Okay, I have certain questions. I'm free. I'm happy if the panelists want to answer that as well. Do you know of an Indian mobile handset company that in 2014 became the largest in India, surpassing Samsung? It became the 10th largest in the world, but has hardly any existence now. Okay, it's Micromax. Now, why so? You became such a big company, you're doing so well. What happened? Okay, now another question. Any guesses? Any companies that were not there, say in 2010, and now they're giving Samsung and Apple, good competition? We do have names there also.
Me, Vivo.
Now, what's the difference? Somebody who's doing so well is wiped out. There are certain companies which were not there and are doing so well. This is the difference. The IP strategy for Micromax, this is a little dated data, but it actually shows you, see what the number of patents. So don't go by the scales. I mean, if you see that there are only 1-2 patents by Micromax, whereas if you look at MI, then look at their portfolio. Similarly, Oppo also has a good list of patents that they have filed. Vivo has also filed. So, I mean, that's I think a clear learning. I mean, today, either you protect what you're creating. If you're not, you'll be wiped off. So if you really want to grow, you better protect all your innovations. And this was just one example. I mean, can actually this hold true for all others? Yes. So if you look at Uber, Ola, you look at, I'm sure if we get into, data crunching job for all of these, between Amazon, Flipkart, Airbnb, Oyo, I'm sure I'll come up with similar graphs. So obviously, patent filing, protecting your IP has a lot of advantage, specifically in the markets where you want to operate. So today, that is why we see so many foreign companies filing in India, simply because India is the market to be. So they are filing, but I don't know what is stopping our companies from doing it. So I think this is enough of lessons for our startups to protect their IP right now. And it's not just about a lot of people talk about it's all open source and all of that, but I think all these examples give you good sense as to why you should protect. Now, okay, now, people hearing this out would say, why should I do? I don't have IP worthy knowledge. It'll consume so much resources without much output. If I file IP, I will reveal all my trade secrets. I support open source. It's easier because you are today busy building your startup, getting to the market. But when you really you will have to scale. You have a lot of risk. So all these questions will not matter then. What will matter is the legal issues that you will face at a later date. Okay, so just to conclude, what I just said, if you really don't want to get excluded, from practicing your own invention, save yourself from legal hassle, and you want nobody else should come and force you out of your business, you better protect your IP right now. And another way, and maybe we'll talk more in length at a later question, but today if you really want to expand without actually putting a lot of money, you can do that through patent licensing. So once we talk about the commercialization aspects, I'd like to maybe going forward, I'd like to talk about that. But this is something I would like to reiterate, that today if you want to be a success story for a longer run, protect your IP.
Very, very relevant. Neha, I think you just managed to sum it up very beautifully, that if you don't want to, if you want to stay relevant in the market, if you want to become a market leader, or if you're really looking to crack the code to entrepreneurial success and success of your startup, I think IP protection is very, very important, and something that should not be relegated to the back end, but unfortunately often does. So I'm sure chats and discussions like these help drive home the point and the importance of IP protection. So thank you for the very, very detailed information on that count, Neha. Well, now moving from one crucial area of legal and legal tech, which is IP, to another very important area or topic of discussion, which often pops up when we start speaking about legalities or law, and that is disputes or conflicts. So I have a question here for Kudrat, which relates to conflicts and dispute, her area of expertise. Kudrat, what I would like to ask you is, what really are the areas in which disputes or conflicts do normally arise or appear in a startup? What are these typical areas where there's a potential for disputes or conflicts to come up? And why is it so important for startups to focus on dispute prevention? So it's something that we'd all like to know. What are the areas, and how do we focus on dispute prevention?
Super. So thank you for asking me that question, Deepika, because the answer lies in your question. And I'd like to share with our viewers how, right? So let's start with step one. We're talking about conflicts that startups face. What are the areas, right? So YCM is a startup. I know Freesolve is a startup. Deepika, at some point you were a startup as well. And I've networked with a lot of startup founders and asked them, okay, when do you not face conflicts? And the answer was never, right? So there aren't any areas where you will not face conflicts. However, there are several areas where you can really prevent disputes. So that distinction at looking at a conflict as an earlier stage and a dispute is when a conflict is escalated, has not been managed well. Those are two separate things. And at YCM, we say a conflict is like a spark. You know, a spark is a good thing. You can use this as a useful flame, put it to use in whichever manner you want. But if you let this spark go unnoticed and unaddressed, it will turn into a raging fire, right? Which becomes destructive. Yeah. So for startups, I think if you are passionate about what you are doing and if you're dreaming big, conflicts are arising every day, right? And in fact, I like to quote Gary Tan, who's been leading startup accelerators and these VC firms in the US. And he says, successful startup co-founders embrace conflicts, right? But the second and the more important part of your question was, why is dispute prevention important for startups? Why should we think about dispute prevention? That is because it's simple. A destructive raging fire will move your focus from what really matters, right? You want to focus on why you started the startup. What do you want to give to the market, to the society, to the customers that you're serving, as opposed to dealing with things that take away your focus. That's one. Second, legal disputes. I think that's the worst thing that can happen to a startup. Sometimes they're unavoidable, but that's the worst that can happen because that takes away your time, money, and the most underrated one, your peace of mind and your creativity, right? And I think startup co-founders really need that. Dispute prevention is something people are not talking about. And I myself, I'm a lawyer. I practiced in different high courts, tribunals, Supreme Courts, and we all spoke about dispute resolution. Nobody spoke about dispute prevention. Why? Why isn't anybody speaking about dispute prevention? It's about time that all of us become proactive and channelize our energies in the right way. And I always say, with a conflict, you have two options. Option one, don't address it, wait for it to turn into a dispute, which could lead to, the startup completely crumbling down or you realizing that this was not the vision, where have we landed up? Or option two, turn that conflict into a growth opportunity, right? How does it help you expand your dream and get closer to where you want to? How does this conflict create opportunities for collaboration with people who are within your startup team and also with stakeholders in the ecosystem, right? And I will take a very typical example of, man versus technology. We're talking about legal tech, right? So a lot of people say, oh no, technology, yes, it's an enabler, but it's really actually not also helping a lot of people. It's becoming a barrier. What about the Antim Nagrik? What happens to the last citizen who does not have access to technology, right? So it's a conflict. But if you say we're going to choose between one or the other, that's not collaborating and creating a growth opportunity for you.
That Kudrat very, very rightly pointed out that startups, I think, need to conserve all their energy and direct it towards something which can take the vision of the organization, of the founders, and of the team, in fact, ahead. So that, I think, is the way to go about it, is to, like you said very rightly, not reach the point of dispute resolution and to subvert it rather at dispute prevention. So thank you so much for those insights. Namita, I have a question again on the same topic, which is disputes. Since you are a subject matter expert, I'd like you to weigh in on this question. The question is, what are the ways in which startups can mitigate and manage possible future disputes And how do they, or how should they ideally go about it? So what are the steps that they should follow, or what is the course of action that they should follow to mitigate and manage possible future disputes?
Sure. Thank you, Deepika, for that question. I think I wish someone had told me what to do when we had started. But today things are different. There is so much more access to information and resources. And I'll just touch upon the question that you said, and I'll pick off from where Kudrat said that it is important to manage that spark, and it is important to prevent rather than cure. On that basis, let me just explain the journey of a basic startup and what would happen. So typically, there'd be an idea that would strike a person. The person would probably search within their circle of friends or family to probably look for a co-founder or directly start by themselves. They would then initially, let's say, hire a freelancer for developing a logo, code a particular product, find some customers. Through the journey, maybe hire 1 to more people and sell. So if, for example, if they have 100 rupees as the starting seed money, they would spend 99.9 on all of this. And 0.1 would be on other administrative aspects like registering a company, if at all, or maybe accounts, and it would be 0 on legal. And then let's say the startup grows. And after a few years, suddenly either a co-founder leaves or an employee suddenly makes a case against the startup to own their IP, or something else happens where a customer files some sort of claims against that particular startup. And that's when they realize, oh, I need a legal resource. But by then, it's already too very late. Now, let me tell you, give you some instances that probably don't even cross people's minds and how disastrous they could be. Now, typically, when somebody is developing any artwork or a logo, the person who actually develops it is considered to be the owner of it by default, whether there's registration or no. And I'm sure, Neha, you could also agree to this. Now, let's say if I am from the legal background and I want somebody to develop Resolve 360's logo. They are the one creating it, and I'm the one wanting to use it for Resolve 360. In this case, who's the owner? The creator or me? So that ownership gets decided by way of a simple agreement. But that agreement needs to be in place, which says that I'm hiring the services of so-and-so person to create something for me. So although the creator is that person, the owner is me. Now imagine this agreement is lacking and I just find somebody to make the logo and start using it. Once I start seeing some sort of success, that freelancer then says, oh, this logo is mine. What are you going to do then? Are you going to, your brand value suddenly is in question. You're going to face issues with your customers, with raising money, with everything you want to do with your company. And that's when you realize, oh, I just wish I had that document before. But all it would take is to just have that document in place right at day one itself. Coming to employees. Let's say today, while they're working with you, they develop a very similar program. And then they leave you and start on their own. You are directly making a competitor right there with access to everything about the way you work. But there is a way of protecting that by way of having a very airtight employment agreement which prohibits the employee to use any such resources of the company to start on their own. So there are these tools and tricks that can actually be implemented from day one into your company by way of doing a legal diligence on your own company from day one, which simply means to have one lawyer that you trust or you have a reference of and asking them to draft these for you. And believe me, just a one-time thing. You then can use the template every time again and again. You don't need to do it for every single employee you hire or every single freelancer you work with, but you need to do it on day one only. And for that, there are lots of options available online as well, where they can look at different drafts, look at references, and put together their own agreement. But I do understand that may be a little difficult as well for certain startups, for the founders themselves to get into all of this. So they do require to hire that one particular person to help them navigate all of these issues. And these are becoming more and more popular. Now, there's a very, very prominent example that we often give about this company, a well-known company that pitched their product, who their customers were, everything to an investor Within the next week, the investor launched the exact same product with a different name. And these people couldn't do anything because they didn't have a non-disclosure agreement with the potential investor. No money was given to them, and now that company just probably barely exists because all their customers were poached by the investor because of the lack of one document. So these things that are often neglected can actually cause your entire system to collapse. So it's important to have that particular professional and get it done. So let's say for a person who's not from a tech background and they want to build a tech-based startup, they would hire a developer or an engineer. Same way it's essential to hire a lawyer as well from day one and not look at legal as a department or a resource 5 years after you start. So these are just some of the thoughts that I want to leave the viewers with. And the point is that it's of course important to build a great product, but it's equally important to build a great company, and no great company can exist without a legal framework.
Well said. Absolutely relevant, Namita. Very well said. So I've been working for close to 11, 12 years now, and I would say if in terms of time I am to calculate, I think I have spent 11 out of those 12 years just trying to get people to understand and get on board with this notion of not relegating legal work, legal framework, legal structure to the back end. So thank you so much for bringing that to the forefront as well. Having a strong legal structure and framework goes a very, very long way. So very well said, Namita. Thank you. All right. So I have another question on intellectual property, taking off from what all our panelists have been speaking till now. I don't think there's any doubt left in our minds anymore that IP does constitute a very, very crucial part of a startup's, assets or property. Neha, this question is for you. What are the various types of intellectual properties that startups or entrepreneurs must be aware of so that they can then, probably cater for their protection and commercialization? So what are these different types of IPs that a startup should be aware of?
Sure. So I again have a slide. I'll sum that up, and I'll just take the discussion ahead from where Namita left. So, okay. So I mean, from a startup perspective, it's the four ways the way they can protect their IP, their products, their authorship, their codes, their logo. There are 4 key ways they can do that. One is, if you have an idea for a new product, service, or anything, any way of doing something, you should patent it. So just taking forward from what Namita said, she said, some investors were there, they took the idea, even despite the NDA, if that whole thing was patented, they could have easily contested it. But because neither they did sign an NDA, nor they did have a patent, they lost it. Yeah. So they in a way, all their efforts went for a toss because they missed the legal part of it. So that's one way of protecting your your invention. Then the next way you can protect your authorship, whether it's a code, it's website content, some marketing materials. The way she rightly said, if somebody is creating the website for you, they're actually, they will say, I own that website because I am the author of that website. I created everything. But if you have copyrights, NDAs, everything in place, you don't lose the right over your own business in a way. Similarly, as Namita also pointed out, whenever you are hiring an employee, a contractor, you should have those specified agreement. Having everything at the start of the engagement in writing, signed with company CEOs, everything is crucial, because tomorrow you don't know how things will go. Similarly, for your brand logo, domain names, social media identifiers, whatever you have, which is probably not the idea, but anything that is supporting your brand has to be trademarked. So for example, today you have so many startups who have grown, at such high levels, but if your logos are not trademarked, I mean, anybody else can pick it up, get a trademark, use it, and you lose it. So that's something that it becomes crucial when you grow, but you have to protect it when you start. You can't wait till a time you grow. Then there is trade secrets, confidential information. Similarly, in just like an example, you have a business plan in place. You have something that you wanted to raise funds. You went to the investors, but again, if you did not have the documentation at the beginning of the engagement, you will never be able to contest. The person was smarter. They use your idea, they made money out of it, and you who did the whole of the hard work lost it. So I think just to re-emphasize what Namita said, getting everything, getting every legal document in place when you start is very, very crucial, which most of the startups don't pay attention to, just because their only goal is to, go to the market as fast as possible. But in that whole journey, they miss the bus when they grow up. Just to add to now, we are saying that you should protect your invention, but a lot of startups come back and say, we don't have that kind of money at the start, we don't have funds. What do we do? So, government through its various programs is actually giving a lot of support to the startups to protect their IPs. So this is a startup definition that the government follows, and any company that fits into this definition can go and register itself under the Startup India program and claim all the benefits that they have for MSME and startups, which are immense. If you compare, any company, any startup which wants to file a patent, then online filing is hardly what, 1750 or 1600 for an application. There's a rebate of 80%. I mean, I would say that, most people are not aware that these are the kind of benefits even the government is giving them. So it's important for them to be aware that these are the benefits that come their way, and they should make sure that they use these benefits. Also, as Namita rightly pointed out, that you need some legal facilitator, some IP attorney to help you. There is a list of facilitators for patents on the Startup India portal if you go. And they also, there's certain, the first two meetings, they're free. They do it for concessional rates. So you will have to explore all of that. But there are a lot of benefits that startups have which they're not aware. And that's where they're unable to file for their own IPs. So I would say these are all the 4 ways of protecting your IP is something that you must evaluate before you grow bigger. And government has a lot of rebates, concessions for you, and you should take advantage of that. So I would sum it up that definitely the legal part is very, very, very crucial.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Neha, for actually not only telling us about the types, but also telling startups and entrepreneurs really the alternatives that are there in front of them to pursue protection of these IPs, and the various options that the government has made available to them as well. So thank you for this detailed information. Now, moving back to conflict resolution and our topic of management disputes, etc. Neha, sorry, I think this question would be for Kudrat, who is again conflict expert. Kudrat, I'd like to know from you, why is conflict management and dispute resolution? Now, moving a step forward from dispute prevention, we are talking about dispute resolution and conflict management. Why is that particularly relevant for startup founders? Now that we've reached the point of dispute resolution, why is management of that dispute or that conflict and resolution relevant for startup founders?
I love the way this conversation is unfolding, right? So Namita and Neha have really nailed the point that, you need lawyers. You need your legal frameworks and your legal aspects sorted, be it IP or contractual agreements. But I think you can take support of lawyers well when you know what you want. You first have to identify what your interests are. And it's unfortunate that in our legal system, you'll see people who've reached the Supreme Court and they'll be like, this is not what I wanted. What is the judge giving me? Right? And you feel that your power as an ordinary person or as a startup co-founder, you sort of transferred it to your lawyer, right? So first it starts with, I need legal support, but then it turns into, I have given the reins of the faith of my startup in your hands. Ab jo hoga, Bhagwan bharose ya court bharose, right? So that's where conflict management becomes very important for startup founders, right? I always say, don't surrender your power. Keep the control on the outcome with you. Take support. If you have the response plus ability, and we call that responsibility at YCM, to deal with conflicts, then option one, which is the best case scenario, you will be able to manage it well so that you don't reach to a stage of a dispute at all. Yeah. Even if you do, because it's not you alone in the dispute, there's another party or another entity involved, can be a customer, co-founder, employee. Even if it still reaches a dispute, you're better equipped to resolve that dispute, yeah, by negotiating directly. The other option is option two, where you realize that, okay, no, I need legal support. I will have to engage a lawyer who will speak on my behalf, will represent me. I want to take this to a court or a tribunal. There again, you will be in a place to take their support effectively if you have those conflict management skills, rather than suddenly feel lost, right? So I think conflict management is at the core of every dispute resolution process, right? And founders need to realize that. It might sound spiritual, but we also say you are your best resource. You have to remember that. Nobody knows what you want better than yourself, right? So that becomes important. And just to share an example of a conflict that recently the YCM team faced. So we did a mediator training course, and we did not invest so much in marketing and social media promotion. And out of the 100% cohort, 80% of them were law professionals and business professionals. Okay? And 20% came from, say, somebody came from an engineering background, someone was doing fashion designing. That was the mix. And now the founding team had a discussion and a conflict around, you know what, we should just focus towards law professionals and business professionals. Let's help them build their skills. Let's make them mediators and conflict managers. We should put aside our goal that dispute resolution skills are life skills for all, right? And that's something which is very close to my heart, that we need to include people. We want to include women from different fields. We want to include younger students. We want to include people from all fields and make this accessible. We want to include people who don't know how to speak English, but it requires effort to promote, do social media marketing, awareness campaigns. And they said that, we are running a good revenue, Kudrat. Why should we invest here? So as a team, there could be a fallout where they say, hey, we did not sign up for this. Maybe she's going towards a non-profitable route. Let's simply say that we don't want to be engaged here. Or I could say, as the founder, I am going to put my foot down. Dispute resolution skills are life skills for all. We will invest our money towards creating that awareness, right? Which does not solve the problem. It's how do you look at the situation to collaborate? And we've come up with a solution where we said, okay, yes, let's cross subsidize. So we earn our, main revenue from here, but make it easier and more accessible to the other parts of the communities, do things in Hindi or local languages so that training is accessible to them. Agreed, at this point, we don't have funds to invest in social media promotion here. Why not use the power of volunteers, right? Let's create internship programs around that so that we can start awareness here, and then you make a phase-wise plan. So this is just an example of how conflict management is really important for a startup, and this enables you to make day-to-day decisions, and most importantly, it keeps you aligned to your final goal.
Perfect, Kudrat. I mean, I don't think you could have summed it up any better, because this is it. I mean, conflict management is a life skill, and I think this is something that all of us as adults need to pick on. Not only startup founders, but yes, even them as well. So talking about dispute resolution and taking the subject one step further, there is an increasingly large, or rather a growing thought process, which makes it, or rather which assigns itself to the thought of online dispute resolution. So Namita, we'd like to know from you, why is online important in dispute resolution? What is online dispute resolution, and why is the online so important in dispute resolution mechanisms?
So I'll start with this. So when in March of this year, there was a survey which was typically about 1 year since the pandemic in India. And there was a survey that was done which asked people what was the one thing, what were the top 3 things that kept you going in the pandemic and when everyone was at home, etc. The number 1 response was technology. Today, the way we live our lives, the way we study, the way we work, the way we communicate has completely transformed from what it was, let's say, a decade ago. Today, online and technology is not an exception, it's the rule. And non-online procedures are an exception, and that's where we're moving at as well, even in India. And let me give you some examples. Why do you need net banking? You could just go to the bank and keep doing your work. Now imagine if every single person actually visited a branch for every single transaction, what would happen? Why do you need online shopping? You can just go to the local store and buy, but what about those artisans that are elsewhere and you want something? Will you travel to them and get it, or will they never have a chance to sell beyond their particular area? Why do you need medtech? Just go to the doctor next door. But what if there's no specialist? Today, at least by technology, you can have access to some of the best doctors no matter where they are located. Schools, why do you need EdTech? If we didn't have EdTech, the past 1 year, no child in our country would be educated. That's why you need online, even when it comes to dispute resolution. It makes it more accessible, because today online dispute resolution can reach where courts just can't. And no matter how hard they try, the infrastructure for courts to reach every single person in the country just does not exist. You see the numbers like 3 crore, 4 crore cases pending, and by statistics, those cases themselves are expected to take over 300 years to be resolved. Just the backlog. Now, every single day in court, and only civil cases I'm saying, there are 40,000 cases being filed. So imagine a backlog of 3 crore cases plus 40,000 cases being filed every single day. Where will they go? And who will get priority? Who will get access? The entire machinery will collapse. Just like how today we can't imagine a day without technology, same way dispute resolution cannot be imagined anymore without technology, and it's not a good to have anymore. It's a must have, because today that same technology is reaching people in the most far off and interiors of places and giving them an opportunity to even think of access to justice, which earlier did not exist. Imagine somebody in, let's say, so I'll talk of Maharashtra, the Bombay High Court is in Mumbai. Now somebody who stays in the interiors, if they have a case here, do you expect them to travel every time for a hearing? And we've all heard of Tariq pe Tariq. So imagine the number of trips that person has to take. Or actually, statistically also, only majority of the cases from Delhi High Court actually go to Supreme Court because of proximity. No other state has those many cases going to the Supreme Court. Why? Because the Supreme Court is located just in Delhi. If it starts functioning online, everyone can have equal access. And that's the power of why we need online dispute resolution. It makes it accessible, it definitely makes it affordable, and it makes it convenient. It, for the first time, probably gives an opportunity for equal access to justice. And that's why online is important. And by online, we don't mean any fancy technologies and understanding coding, etc. Just like how today people who have no training in computers, in IT, probably no formal education, are being able to use WhatsApp, are being able to use Facebook, are being able to access different social media platforms. Just like that, online dispute resolution works in the same way, where anybody with just a basic understanding of what a smartphone is can actually look at resolving their dispute. And that's the power of why we need online and dispute resolution, as for me.
Perfect, Namita. I think you encapsulated it very well when you said equal access to justice. That really is the crux of online dispute resolution. Well, moving on to again a question regarding IP, because again tech and IP are quite closely tied in. We have been speaking about the types of IP and why is it important to protect IP. What about commercializing? So Neha, we would like to know from you, how should a startup approach commercializing of their patents or of their IP, and what would be the modes, the ways to go about commercializing?
Sure. Thanks for that question. And I'll just quickly give you 5 ways to make money from your patent. So everybody is saying, why should we patent? Now, taking the simple route is you have an invention, you can produce that you can produce a prototype, then make it into a product, sell it in the market, earn profits. That's the simple way of using your patented idea and making money from it. Now, I'll just take an example so that I can explain all of that. So, for example, you have a TV stick, I'll call it. It's an hypothetical example, which can help your old TVs, become smart. So we all know it's already there, but that's one example. But the one that our company has is only catering to brand X, which is the market leader. So I have that, and now what I want to do is I have a prototype ready, I'll produce it and then sell it. Everybody will buy it because everybody needs a smart TV now, and we can simply earn profits from the whole idea. Now, the other thing is patent licensing. How that works is, now I have the idea, but I don't have the support system, the money and everything else to make it into a market ready production thing. So what will I do? I will license it to brand XYZ, and I'll say that you have the rights over a particular period of time on pre-decided terms and conditions, and you end up paying a royalty on my patent. So I have an idea, I'm not doing anything else, but somebody else is producing it for me and I get the royalty on it. Okay. Now, another thing, and I think, we have discussed this previously also, is about patent enforcement. So today, the way, Namita rightly said, I did not have the funds, but I have an idea. I went to an investor, and that investor, saw all of it, liked the idea and everything, and started producing it. Now what? I lose my idea, but because I have a patent already in my name, I go the legal route and I file for patent infringement against the investor, and I claim damages. So because my idea was patented, the inventor could not take advantage of it. Another way, the way you can do it is patent pooling. Now, how does that happen? So you have to combine it with another patent owner, and together you can make a better product. So in my example, if I see, I had that TV stick, which was working for only one of the brand leaders of TV. But this other guy came up with an idea which can be added to my TV stick, and together the stick can be, work on all the TVs, whether it's India, it's global, but he can't do it alone by himself because my idea is patented already, and vice versa. So both of us come together, we launch another product, we earn profits. Obviously, it's a better idea, works well for everybody, and everything needs to be documented. You can say, whatever share of profits work for each of you, revenue sharing, whatever agreement, you can do that. That's another way of making money from your patents. Now, the quicker way is to sell your patent. So, like the way you said, patent licensing, the market leader in the TV area said that if this happens, my smart TVs won't sell and I lose the market. So he said, one go, you sell me the patent and stop producing it. Now, whatever he does is his way of, dealing with it. But for me, one go, I sell the patent, I'm good. So these are, the 5 ways of making money from your own patent. And apart from, this is how, you can commercialize and earn money. But another important thing that startups should understand is, if you have a patent, you have filed for a patent, you already have a granted patent, it makes it easy for you to raise money also. So today, when a lot of investors look for startups, when they are funding them, they do look at, if you have an idea, it's worth it. And if it is you already own an IP, your valuations also go up, because tomorrow they know if once they invest in your company, you go to the market, you have higher chances of staying in the market. So that's another point too, though it's apart from commercialization, but it's important for startups to understand, to know that, if today you have an IP in your name, it will help you, it will ease funding for you. So that's another thing that I wanted to end this whole discussion with. And as we have been talking, to do all of this, so it's important to have an IP strategy, have your IP protected, and I think then you'll do wonders. But if you miss that bus, then I don't know what will happen in the future. So that's from my side, yeah.
Absolutely, Neha. I think IP is the bedrock on which all innovation should rest. So,
Yeah.
well said. Don't miss the bus. Well, moving back to dispute prevention, I have a question for Kudrat. Kudrat, we'd like to know how can we use technology and skill building, which I think you are a subject matter expert in. It's what YCM does. So how do you marry technology and skill building together in order to achieve dispute prevention? Or how can we use the two for dispute prevention?
Great. Thank you for that question, Deepika. And here I would want to say kudos to Youth Power and the students of Jindal Global University. That's where we set up a first YCM chapter. It's called YCM GGU. And I think it's a perfect example of how technology and skill building has gotten together, not only for dispute prevention, but for ensuring sustainable human connection and inclusion, right? So this is something that I said earlier, that yes, technology can be an enabler, but a lot of people look at it as a barrier also. So it's easy to shut the door and say, okay, we don't cater to this section of the society. They don't have smartphones, but we still cater to a big society, right? People have to take a call where they want to focus. So speaking about what students at YCM GGU have done, firstly, all of them were trained in a very diverse demographic. So we had 50% of the cohort were law students and 50% of the cohort were community members in the area of Sonipat, Haryana, right? We did the sessions bilingually. We made a buddy system where we had a law student supporting a community member to understand how to use technology. And we'll start with the basics, right? How do you join a Zoom meeting? How do you become a part of a WhatsApp group? So I think we have to start taking baby steps when we say that technology can really provide access to justice. let's get people comfortable with it first, right? And it might sound absurd to a lot of people. What is she saying? Let's get people comfortable with technology. But the grassroots reality is that not everybody is, right? What do you do with internet issues and these bandwidth issues, right? Do you say, okay, sorry, you could not attend the training, out of the system? How do you create those connections and say that no worries, someone else will spend extra time with you and we'll back you up there? So that's one aspect where I think skill building and technology has worked really well to make YCM JGU successful. The second aspect, how can you use technology for access to justice, right? Something that Namita's organization is also working towards. So now YCM JGU, they've launched their conflict management services online. And we are not using technology algorithms or these other things to help come up with settlement options, but just as a medium to reach out to more people. And I think that in itself is a big boost to keep people connected and ensure access to justice. And I see universities as a micro reflection of the larger society, right? So if you can do something in a university, in a locality, then replicating that at a larger level really enables that journey from self to society. So now these students are providing services on Microsoft Teams, sometimes on WhatsApp, and helping people deal with their conflicts, not only for the community within the university, but also for community members around the university. And I think that is the power of technology.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Kudrat. I mean, if baby steps and grassroots is where we begin, and then things become accessible to everyone. So that is the best way forward. You know, putting a nice bow towards the end of the conclusion of this very stimulating discussion. We have spoken so much about patents, about tech, about laws, disputes, etc. Namita, I'd like to know from you, what do you think where do you think is legal tech headed in 2020? How does the potential of legal tech look like in 2022?
So that's actually a very interesting question. Let me start with a statistics. In the past year, during the pandemic, there were 3 major IPOs in the US. The 3 major IPOs were in the space of legal tech. And there are similar tendencies and trends being observed in India as well, or throughout the world actually. Legal tech has become something from as I mentioned earlier, from a good to have to an absolute must have. And this sector is being enabled by all the startups and all the organizations that are blending, as you said, Deepika, in the start, the best of legal acumen with technologies that are being developed. So what happens is legal is dependent on other sectors as well. Like it goes hand in hand with business, with personal, etc. And when those sectors itself have completely revolutionized by technology, there's no option but for the legal field also to catch up to the future. And it's doing just that. It's not that it's far behind or it's really lagging. And I do understand that it's a stepwise and a phase-wise approach. But it's definitely the way of the present and the way of the future, and that's where it's headed. And to sum it up, I'd just like to say it is undoubtedly the #1 sunrise sector, as they say, a sector whose time has come. So that's how I'd like to put where I see legal tech in 2022.
I literally could not agree with you more, Namita. I think it is the sunrise sector. And what you said is very right. It's about time that the legal sector caught up. We are catching up, but yes, we need to keep working in this direction of marrying technology with the legal acumen and delivering the best possible legal and dispute resolution solutions to the economy at large. Okay, so now since today we have the stalwart ladies who are our panelists, there is a question which is close to my heart and also very relevant in today's times, that I would like to pose to all three of them. This is a slight deviation from our topic of legal tech, and this relates more to women in entrepreneurship, boss women, as I like to refer to them. So this question is for all three of you. You can go turn by turn, probably in the same order in which you answered the previous question. What, according to you, is the role of women in the startup ecosystem? And what are the ways you think we as a society, as a community, can drive more women to take on the challenges of entrepreneurship?
So since we are going in the order, I'll take this first. So I think
Yes.
women in the whole startup chapter, they are bound to play an important. They are still are playing. They will continue to play, and I think they bring a lot of things which I personally feel the men folks don't get to the table. I mean, the kind of empathy, the EQ, the creativity that comes with this, the softer skills that come to the table, those are the pointers which make it so important to have women across, I think, anything we do. I mean, whether it's startups, whether it's anything else. And in terms of how I see things shaping up, I think, in terms of support, COVID has done one good thing. I mean, I won't say, there's so much negativity, but that whole hybrid working model that has come through, I think a lot of women in India, globally, they lose out on the race, as soon as, you have a family, you have things to look after. But I think the whole hybrid working model is a good support system which can actually push more women workforce into the system. And I think that is something that companies should continue to embrace going forward, COVID or no COVID. And this is something that everybody has got used to. And I personally believe that will get you a lot of women folk in the workforce, niche skills, all the passion that they have, but there are reasons why people, move out. And I will be very happy to see a lot of women coming back if, companies understand that remote working and hybrid mode can actually help the whole idea of getting women back to workforce. So that's one support factor I would vouch for going forward as well.
Perfect. Neha, so if you were to just off the top of your head point out a couple of challenges, a few challenges that you think get in the way, or hurdles that get in the way of driving women to entrepreneurship, what would they be?
So I mean, if you talk about women entrepreneurship, the challenges that we I see, and I've heard a lot of people talk about that also, is that, while you go out and go out to look for funding from investor side, I don't know, there's some kind of a bias which, when you have a lot of men folk around you, you tend to be more comfortable. But if you see the woman leading it, so I would really push people who have the who have the money and the funding support. And if I can really request all those senior ladies out there who can really support these women startups, I think it's a woman for woman, yeah. So I think we need to look towards that, and this is something I really believe in. So let's empower each other.
Perfect. Perfect, Neha. So the same question goes to you guys too. And just like I asked Neha, just top it off with a quick dash of challenges that you think women in entrepreneurship face, apart from the original question.
Or should I go? All right. Okay. So answering your original question that what is the role of women in the startup ecosystem? I don't think I've met anybody who is more jugadu than women, right? It could be from the smallest thing, from fixing a dinner at home to making it work for a client meeting where everything's gone wrong. So I think this skill is something that comes to women naturally. And I think I will have to give it to the challenges that the women have faced, right? And they said, oh my God, now I need to do some jugaad and still put a show on. So I give it back to the challenges that have made women jagadu. And the second thing, I think how the society can help and boost women entrepreneurs is creating platforms for collaboration, support, critique, and so much more. And I would like to thank Shakti for that. One core strong example of how they've made this platform for women entrepreneurs only. I've learned so much there. Namita will vouch for the same. So having that support system is really important. And the last part, the challenges that women face is again that, okay, you are not good enough. I think this mindset that you are not good enough starts pervading in, and it becomes a question of self-doubt. Am I doing enough? Maybe this is not enough. So I think the challenge comes from within, created by the society. So again, like I say, you have to own your conflicts and dispute, own this internal conflict also. Whatever you're doing, it's enough. Stay persistent, be anti-fragile, and you can resolve it, whatever it is.
Perfect. Well said.
Yeah, I think Neha and Kudrat have really reinforced so many positive thoughts in my mind. And if I had to say, women entrepreneurs and their roles. So even when I took the decision of entrepreneurship, we were often told that for women, you're probably just considered to be more creative or more on the relatively delicate side, etc. But statistics say that women make better financial planners also than men. So it's not just the creative side of the brain that works, it's also the analytical, it's also the managerial, and it's also the leadership skills that women possess, which men just don't. And these are, skills that are not exactly learnable. They are skills that are more inherent in women as compared to men. And if we don't utilize or capitalize on them for the startup ecosystem, then we'd be wasting it for sure. So that's what I definitely think. That's the importance of having women in the entire startup and business ecosystem. And I also, feel a little offended when people say that, okay, women have started working now or they've started becoming entrepreneurial now. It's not that at all. Women worked 24/7 way back. It's just that people didn't recognize that. People don't recognize domestic or other work as work. And people recognize 9 to 5 as work, but not 24/7 work that women otherwise do. So it's not that they are joining the workforce now or now we see more women entrepreneurs. No, they've always been entrepreneurial. They've always been managerial because they run families and they literally bring up people. They literally, that's the importance of women. And now it's moving also into bringing up companies. So that's what I truly believe in. And also the one thing that I always tell myself also is that entrepreneurship doesn't see gender. It really sees passion. It sees your ability to stay persistent and your ability to show up no matter how bad things become. And it doesn't matter the gender. It just matters your dedication towards what you're building. And yes, I do feel that there are additional challenges for sure. I've experienced many of them in the past 2 years itself, many of them. But I do feel that those challenges only make us better. And the biggest challenge that I feel is that you don't start from the same starting line. Like if there is a male counterpart, he's probably at the 0 starting line. As a woman, you're probably at minus 70 or 80. That's the biggest challenge. And there are also expectations other than work on a woman more than there are on men. But then I guess that's what helps you manage time better and become more jugadu, as Kudrat said. So, and I do definitely feel that there's never been a better time in India to be a woman entrepreneur because of organizations that you said, like Shakti. There are various government organizations, that are various now mentorship programs available exclusively for women. I've been part of quite a few, and it's a great time to be a woman entrepreneur.
Namita, in fact, all of you, you have so well summed up what it is to be a woman entrepreneur, what drives you to it, what tries to hold you back, but doesn't end up holding you back. In fact, only pushes you harder. I'd like to conclude this session with just, like 2 cents of my thought on this, being a co-founder of a women-only legal consultancy. We work on this basis of girls who work together win together. So, that is, I think, a thought that I think you all have brought so well to the table today. So here is a loud shout out for girls who are working, killing it, and really willing together, and to more such cohorts, platforms like Shakti, the wonderful NASSCOM Insights initiative to get women entrepreneurs heard and really get their words out in the open, to more such wonderful sessions with inspiring ladies like you all together. So I think we can conclude the session on the very positive note that you all spoke about. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on legal tech, IP, and the importance that it holds for startups and young and dynamic companies. I think we should all remember also, as like entrepreneurs ourselves, that the more legal enables entrepreneurship, the more progress and the more growth it drives their way and the way of their own way as well. So that is the last thought. We can, I think, close the session. And thank you so much once again for being such terrific speakers and for generally being such boss ladies.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. I've learned a lot from everybody, and this has been absolutely an amazing start to a weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great.